I recently read a study that was looking at job satisfaction, career satisfaction, life satisfaction as it relates to your work. Basically, the entire summation of the article was the amount of autonomy you have is the number one correlator to how happy you are at this job. If you feel like you have to go in at a certain time, you have to do exactly what someone else tells you, you don't get to control the environment you're working in, that's one of the number one predictors of being miserable. If you want to be happy, if you want to feel fulfilled, then you are going to have to get to the point that you have some control over your life. You have some control over what you do. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see dentists make is they think they can stay at an associate job where they are ultimately an employee working for someone else and they're going to feel fulfilled there. The reality is you're probably not. Maybe you have some sort of rare personality that you like being bossed around, you like being told what to do, and you don't want to be in control of your life. Okay, fine. Well, then this video isn't for you. Click off of it and go watch some YouTube video while you're sitting at your job at Aspen or Heartland Dental. If, on the other hand, you actually care about your life and you want to take some control and gain some autonomy and actually improve your circumstances, well, then this is for you. I want to show you how you can go from being an associate to being an owner and how it can give you dramatic differences in the amount of freedom and control you have over your time and your schedule. When you are working as an associate, you have to work whenever the corporation or your boss has decided that you're going to work. When you are the owner of a dental practice, you can set up your schedule however you like to set it up. When I was at my practice, I set up my schedule to where I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I took off Thursday, Friday, and then I took off the next Monday, Tuesday, and then I would work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the following week. And so basically I got 2 weekends and a week of time off. It was great because I could go on trips whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted to go. And I didn't even have to take off time from work to do that. It was great. And then there were a few times where I took off 1 week worth of time, but the way that I had my schedule set up, it was like, I take 1 week off of work, but I get 2 weeks of time to go on vacation. I personally like travel. Travel is one of my favorite things to do. I've been to like over 40 countries. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I set up my schedule in a way that I could make that happen. During my time as an owner, I spent time in Egypt. I spent time in Greece, Spain. I went to Guatemala. I went all over the place. I think I went on a cruise. I think I went on 2 cruises when I was working. I went on a lot of trips and I made $700,000 my first year as an owner. So I had the money to go on to travel. I had the time to travel. I had the energy, and this was before I had kids. Now I have kids and travel's a little bit harder now, but I mean, even last year I think we went to Japan for a month and we went to the Netherlands for 3 weeks. So I still find ways to travel even with kids. There might be other things you enjoy doing. Maybe you're a golfer and you want to be able to be on the green at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. As an associate working at Aspen Dental, you are not going to be golfing at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. You're just not. You're going to be in Aspen Dental seeing patients. As an owner, you just set up your schedule the way you want to set it up. You can be golfing whenever you want to golf. I know some dentists, they only work mornings. They literally work 8 to 12, 4 or 5 days a week, and they have the afternoons off. That's perfectly fine. You're an owner. You can do whatever you want. I'm not trying to prescribe you should follow any specific schedule. The thing is, I just want you to realize that when you're an owner, you get to choose. You get to work what you want to work. You get to work when you want to work. It's one of the incredible parts of being a dentist is you set your schedule. Patients choose if they want to come see you at those times. And then when you're not working, you can leave and you don't even have to worry about. Some jobs, you are constantly having to check your email and you have to work even when you're at home. As a dentist, when you're home, you're home. You can just turn that off. You forget about it. There's so many people that would kill to have that kind of control. Even if you were going to make the same amount of money, ownership still kicks associates' butt because you get to control your schedule. You can make a lot more money as an owner and you have more control over your schedule. Like it's both. It's not just one or the other. But even if you didn't make any additional money as an owner, it's still worth it just for that freedom and control that you get. Freedom to choose which patients you see. When you work at an associate job, you have to see whichever patients show up. You have to take whatever insurances they tell you you're going to be taking. They have their credentialing department. They sign you up for the insurances. If you decide you don't want to see patients from some insurance company, you just drop that insurance company. If there's a patient you don't want to see, you just tell them, hey, sorry, go find another dentist. You can do whatever you want. You're an owner. There's nothing keeping you forcing you to see any patient you don't want to see. But when you're an associate and you're working at an office, you don't get that kind of control. I spent some time working at some Aspen dental locations. And I was just working as a temp dentist there. I've never been a full-time employee at Aspen Dental, but yeah, I worked some temp jobs there. And I'm going to be honest, some of the offices I were at, I didn't love how they were doing their treatment planning. I didn't like some of the perio stuff they were doing. I just felt like it was definitely very aggressive, and they were prescribing things that I didn't personally feel comfortable with all the time. But as an associate, you don't really get a say. When you're an owner, you just do things the way you want to do it. When you're at an associate job, you just have to go along with what's being done. And the problem is because patients just think you as a dentist are the owner because that's expected. I mean, from a patient's point of view, why would you work as an employee, as a dentist? Honestly, it's not very, like, if you're smart, you're going to be an owner. And so patients expect that. And so they're going to come to see you at the Aspen Dental, the Heartland Dental, the Pacific Dental, and they're going to be looking at you as if you're an owner. And they're going to be like, well, why are you treatment planning all this perio stuff on me? And I mean, legally, you are. Legally, you are the one treatment planning because you're the dentist. But you have signed away your license to this company, and you're basically allowing them to do treatment planning stuff on your behalf. And then I don't think it's very ethical. I don't think I don't know if you're going to sleep that well at night. And when you're an owner, you can do the things the way you want to do it. You don't have to worry about some corporate policies. You don't have to get permission. You can treatment plan, and you can treat your patients the way that you think is best, the way that you think is ethical. You're the boss. When you're an owner, you can take off time whenever you want. You do not have to ask for permission. Once again, when I was at that temporary Aspen job that I did part-time, there was like this online forum you had to go to, and you had to request a few months in advance. Hey, I want to take time off this time, and then you have to make sure that there's no other dentists in the network that want to take that same time off because they need to have one dentist that's going to be able to fill in for you. And if you try to take a last minute time, you may or may not get denied. When you're an owner, you just take off whatever time you want to take off. If I hear some people, like parents, mothers, for instance, they say, well, I don't think I should be an owner because I want to make sure I have time for my kids. As an owner, if you need to leave early to pick up your children from school, you just do it. And you tell the front desk, hey, you're going to have to reschedule my afternoon patients because my kid's sick. You're the boss. You're in control. You do what you want to do. If you do that at Aspen, they're probably going to say, hey, you can't do that. And if you do it anyways, you might get fired. When you're an owner, you can't get fired. You just do what you want to do. It might be inconvenient for some of the patients. Obviously, you're not going to try to do that, but you can. And it's up to you. You're in control. Freedom to build equity in a business. When you are working for someone else, you are building up equity in their business. Understand that a dental practice is an asset that's oftentimes very expensive. A dental practice could be worth as much as $2 to $3 million. When you work at someone else's dental practice, you are making that practice more valuable for them so that when they sell it, it's worth more. Dental practices are typically valued based upon the revenue at that office. So if you go in and you do work at that office, you increase the revenue at that office, you are increasing the value of that office, which means it's going to be able to sell for more money. But when you're working as an employee, you're not keeping any of that equity. All of that equity is being kept by the owner. You're getting none of it. When you are the owner of the business, if you grow the business and then you decide you want to sell it, you can potentially sell it for more than you paid for it. Just like if you buy a stock, the stock goes up, you sell the stock. Just like you buy a house, the value of the house goes up, you can sell that house and make a profit. Same with dental practices. You can make a profit by selling a dental practice for more than you paid for it. I sold a practice for more than I paid for it, and I got to keep the difference. If I was working at an associate job, I would not have been able to do that. When you leave an associate job, you get nothing. If you leave an ownership job where you've grown the practice, you might get $500,000 to $1 million, maybe $2 million, depending on how big the office is. If you had a practice loan and you paid off that practice loan, you literally get to keep 100% of the proceeds from that sale. That is wild. We're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that you would not have gotten if you were at an associate job. As an associate, you work the schedule that you are given and you build equity up for someone else. As an owner, you are in control. You get to set your schedule how you want to set it, and you get to keep the equity from the work that you do. Buying a dental practice can be a difficult and stressful event. I'm not saying it's easy. It's hard. It's hard to buy a dental practice. I'm not going to lie. It is difficult. But you made it through dental. You are a dentist. You can do things that are difficult. Yes, it might be uncomfortable. It might be a little bit scary, but you can do it. And if you do it, you're going to be looking back in a few years from now saying, I cannot believe it took me this long. Why did I not buy sooner? If you are looking for help to make this process a little bit easier, you can find my information in the description below. You can also download, I have a free download called the Practice Evaluation Checklist. You can download that for free. Please reach out if you are looking for help. I help dentists buy dental practices. That's what I do full time. Reach out and I would be happy to work with you. Understanding that if you are willing to leave your associate job and you are willing to go through a little bit of discomfort through the process, you can get yourself into a situation where you're making significantly more money. You have significantly more freedom and control over your life. And at least according to the research, you potentially are going to be significantly happier in this situation. Look, I think there's a lot of people out there telling you should not become an owner. There's a lot of people who have a lot of interest in you not becoming an owner. The dental service organizations, Aspen, Heartland, Pacific, they have a whole industry that's set up upon the idea of they want you to stay as associates because that's how they make their money. The only money that Aspen or Heartland or Pacific make, the only money that DSOs make is taking profit from dentists. That's the only way they make money. Assistants cannot generate revenue in an office. Assistants are just helping. The front desk people in an office cannot generate revenue. The only person in the office that can actually generate revenue is the dentist. If you are working at an associate job, the only reason that that job is able to stay in business is because there is some dentist that is sharing a portion of that revenue with the office. Why don't you keep that for yourself? Maintain your control, maintain your freedom, and keep all that money that you would be sending off to Mr. Bob Fantana at Aspen. Keep that for yourself, and good luck.